In the name I am that I am, beloved Creator of all that is, we love you. And we are so grateful for this opportunity to be together in spirit, to be together with each other. Grateful for this opportunity that is life with all its challenges. And we call upon those beings of 100% white light who would work in, through, and around us, including our beloved Jesus the Christ and Mother Mary, beloved Archangel Michael, beloved Faith, beloved Archangel Raphael, beloved Chamuel and Charity, beloved Gabriel and Hope, beloved Gautama Buddha and Kuan Yin, beloved Melchizedek and Metatron, beloved Alpha and Omega in the heart of the great central sun, called to the beloved powers that be, all the angels and ascended masters that work in, through, and around us, that overshadow us and watch out for us. We call forth now for enlightenment, for healing, for transformation. I call the beloved Archangel Michael to ensure that our beloved Marcella is escorted to the light. And for this, we are grateful. And to escort all souls to the light who have passed from the screen of life in our recent history. We called to thousands of blue lightning angels to make sure that these deceased find their way to the light according to God's will. And we call for divine revelation, divine healing. We call for all our leaders and those who, doctors, nurses, medical staff, to release us from our bondage at home as soon as it's safe, and to, with wisdom and clarity, get this world back on track to our new normal, so that we may once again experience our complete freedom without fear. And we accept all this done in the full power of the Mother, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so it is. Amen. Okay. So today the topic is healing and the power of imagination. So we're going to explore how to develop our God-given power of imagination to manifest personal and planetary healing. To learn the power of visualizing with focus intention and working in harmony with divine energy to align with perfect health, and not only perfect health, but happiness, prosperity. We will explore some ancient methods as well as some modern technologies, focusing on the work of Grigori Grabovoi and matrix energetics. So specifically what we're going to explore is divine mind, the power of the imagination, visualization, and look at some imaginative healing techniques, specifically the School of Images, matrix energetics, and the work of Grigori Grabovoi. Divine mind. So this concept of divine mind is taken from the basic ideas of science of mind from Ernest Holmes. So our understanding is that at the beginning of this world system of ours, there must have been nothing but the great universal mind, or God. And out of itself, the tangible universe was formed. Since we are created of that which God is, mind, we are made of and possess godlike qualities, and we have the right and the ability to develop and use them. My thought is in control of my experience, and I can direct my thinking. This point that I want to drive home is you're powerful beings. Your thoughts are powerful. We're all powerful in ways that we don't even understand or recognize. We are children of God. So let's explore this a little bit about our mind. In truth, there is only one mind, that is divine mind. Now, humankind has its consciousness in and expresses its mind in different ways. There's the conscious mind, the one that is actively aware of one's thoughts. There's the subconscious mind, the storehouse of all memories and experiences. There's the superconscious mind, the I am, the Christ mind. The superconscious mind is always informing the conscious and subconscious minds with divine ideas. So through conscious choice, we can access the superconscious mind for guidance and direction. And this is not to be confused with our brains. Our brains are not really what's important here. They're in the studying about the ancient Egyptians, when they did the embalming, they would take the brains and throw them in the trash. So it's like the computer. You can think of the mind as the software and all its functionings, and the brain is the hard drive. So the technology is going to be so outdated that it will have to be replaced. Your mind thinks through the brain. Your brain is an instrument for fulfilling the commands extended to it by the consciousness which mind is. Your brain records the memories, experience, and information electrically, just like a computer hard drive would do. So understand the difference between mind and matter, cause and effect. So mind is spiritual, and it is related to our consciousness, and it constitutes the invisible universe of cause. Matter is physical and constitutes the visible universe of effect. So everything that we see that is visible and physical is the result of whatever started somewhere in the mind, in God's mind, has but one idea, and that idea is that creation is a whole. God has but one desire. That desire is to give creative expression to his one whole idea. God expresses his desire electrically by thinking and imagining. So to understand that when we think, we send out electromagnetic impulses, which start the ball rolling. And we are made in God's image. All formed bodies are made in the image of God and man, and extended from mind imaginings to manifest God and man. Creator and creation are just mind imagined forms, electrically extended into electrically formed bodies, fashioned in the images of their imaginers. All the universe is one mind, one soul, and one body, seemingly divided into many minds, many souls, and many bodies. So trying to wrap our heads around how things were really created is probably more than any of us will ever really understand. But if we take it on faith, because we can see physically after a fashion how our thoughts become manifest. Okay, so I'm going to open up at this point to see if anybody has any questions or comments. And you can give me a chat or just let me know you're there and give me a plus in the chat box if you're with me so far and understand where we're going or what we've talked about. Just so I know you're still there. This is it's very different not to have you sitting in front of me. Thanks. Yeah, just to let me know you're there and that you're with me, that you understand, that you have some inkling of how powerful you are, and that you are made in the image of God, and that your thoughts are powerful. All right, thanks. All right, so let's talk now about imagination. Now, Unity talks about this in the 12 spiritual powers, and we want to talk just a little bit about our 12 spiritual powers, just as an introduction. Our 12 spiritual powers are ways in which the one power expresses within us. These divine ideas are inherent spiritual abilities that form the pattern of perfection within us. Each power is an ability to do something, which we can develop through conscious practice. Imagination is the first, then love, understanding, order, wisdom, strength, will, faith, power, elimination or release, and then life and enthusiasm or zeal. As we come to a fuller realization of our true nature, our higher consciousness, we become more able to fully demonstrate our divine potential or our Christ nature. So then, according to Unity principle, imagination is our primary power. It is essential for the cultivation of our other spiritual capabilities. To change conditions in mind, body, and our affairs, we first have to transform the pictures that are in our mind. We can imagine the worst, or we can imagine the best. For every thought that we have is our choice. Metaphysically, creation occurs, specifically when we have the union of the heart and the mind. That's where true power lies. So the imagination then has to do with the eye of our consciousness. The imagination forms in the third eye. Concentrate your attention there to encourage awakening our power to picture God ideas. When faculties of mind are understood in the threefold relation, spirit, soul, body, it will be found that every form and shape originated in the imagination. Imagination is how the formless takes form. So if you want to change your world or change your current circumstances, then imagination is the powerful place to do that. Humankind and the universe are a series of pictures in the mind of being, or in the mind of the divine. All right, so let's talk about this from a practical perspective now. When we practice using our imagination, we want to conceive first a constructive idea. And this is where we set our intention and we hold an image of not the way that we see a situation in the present, but the way that we see the situation, we desire it in the future, and bring it to the present. So think of something that you would like to see differently. For instance, you maybe like to see people shopping freely without having to be concerned which aisle they're in or which way they're going in the store, or whether they can go into a store or not. So in this instance, create an image of people just mulling around shopping casually, lots of people. So hold the image of the desired creation in mind and feel it as if it is already fulfilled. So your emotions and your feeling world work together to help this happen. And then you bring your frequency to be that person who can live in that desired frequency. And as one of the things that Greg said, Braden will say, is be grateful in advance and feel it as if it is already happening. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult to do. It's useful to call upon the power of your higher self to help you do this. And here's a affirmation from Unity. Christ in me quickens my faculty of imagination. I see clearly and creatively. I give form and shape to divine ideas and substance. I envision good unfolding in every area of my life. So wherever you are now, say this with me. Say this affirmation with me. And see, if you will, whatever it is that you would like to see differently. Let's say it together. Christ in me quickens my faculty of imagination. I see clearly and creatively. I give form and shape to divine ideas and substance. I envision good unfolding in every area of my life. So imagination goes hand in hand, really, with visualization. And what's the difference? Visualization usually refers to images that we conjure up intentionally with our conscious mind. And we just do that. As we set our intention, anytime we do a prayer or a healing technique of any sort and we set an intention, it is also helpful to bring in the power of your imagination by using your visualization to see whatever it is in your mind's eye, in your third eye, how something can be different in the future. For instance, you might have hurt yourself, or you might have a scratch or a scar. See it perfect in your mind's eye for healing. Imagination can also include these visual images, so visualization is really a part of imagination. But to use your full capabilities of your imagination, you can also have that full experiential feeling, happenings that include our sense of taste, our smell, our hearing, our touch, and also our feelings and emotions. When we look at this, using our imagination for healing, it becomes very powerful to sync up with the mind of God in a certain way. So when we use visualization, it's usually a surface tool. It's kind of a contrived plot, if you will. A deeper way is to connect with spirit and have spirit show you an image. So visualization is a surface tool using waking dreams to guide you. Now, it's very helpful. And it happens through, for instance, guided meditations. When you have guided meditation and someone takes you through the meadow or to the beach or wherever it is that really helps you to feel at ease, or through a shamanic soul journey to other worlds and other times. These are tools that we use. Now, imagery of revelation that taps into your inner world uses to give us, usually we're given images when we request them from source. So the difference will be, it can be triggered by an inner jolt, perhaps, or it can be something that just pops into your mind, and sometimes we cannot even know where it came from. These are the kinds of things, like you can compare it to a Zen koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Now, what image does that bring up? And this is where healing, really powerful healing, occurs. It's when you go to source, you go to spirit on some level, and then you ask for a revelation. This is often how it happens. I want to make this distinction because both of these methods of imagery are very powerful. But when spirit pops something into your head, it's even more powerful. And it also has to do with clairvoyance, with how you see the images in your third eye. So there's really, according to Gregory Gravovoy, two major sources of clairvoyance. So there is a logical clairvoyance, or mental clairvoyance, is the one that we're really talking about first here, when we have the ability to visualize. Visual images come up from your memory because they're things that you have previously perceived or seen in your reality. So you call them up specifically. And the example is, just imagine an apple. All right. So the apple pops into your head. It's really a mental process because you've seen a lot of apples in your day, right? And then spiritual clairvoyance is the other one. It comes from contemplation. It's where visual images show up from your connection to source. For an example, contemplate how to transform a situation and then see what image pops into your third eye. So this is important to distinguish between the two. All right, so it's really important to distinguish these two mental processes, because the logical clairvoyance is powerful and it's something that we use primarily with our conscious mind. And the spiritual clairvoyance, though, is different. It comes from a deeper place. It comes from that super conscious place that we talked about. So we want to contemplate how to transform a situation. Then we see what image comes up into our third eye, and we trust that that image is coming from source. All right, to bring this home, I want to really use some techniques and to see how in practice we can do this. Okay. Anytime that we wish to transform a situation, we always want to do certain things. And we always want to, first and foremost, center ourselves and connect to the Creator. Now, those of you who are here, I'm sure, have already a meditative practice or some kind of practice to help you center yourself. So this is not going to be the focus of this, but let's just say we're centered, we're connected. We've already had our prayer. We set our intention to go into our hearts and connect to the Creator of all that is. And then we also want to make sure that we connect our hearts to our brains. Now, this can be a lengthy process if done correctly. I teach this in a different workshop. But to connect our heart to our brains essentially means that we are in our hearts. And when we are deeply in our hearts, the brain does come under dominion of your heart. And there's a practice of feeling where you are. So right now, just take your hands and put it on your heart. and think from that place. It might help to think about somebody that you love. It could be your beloved, your spouse, your child, your pet. And just feel how your energy begins to really be centered in that space. And you also then want to focus your imagination, focus your intent. Send a very clear message to Spirit. Once you are connected to Spirit and centered in your heart, because this initiates a flow of energy to influence and manifest your desired outcomes. The object of your focused intent is like a blueprint for your manifestation. It is where you can see in advance what it is that will be happening in the future. And this focused intention then, it becomes like a laser beam. This contemplation ability, it usually happens as a result of being able to focus. It's something that you have to have a disciplined mind to do. And the healing work that I do is not magic. It's based on scientific and spiritual principles. But one advantage that I have over a lot of people is that I have the ability to focus my intention. And I credit that to having primarily a PhD in electrical engineering, where having to focus for long amounts of time doing crazy equations. So it is something that has to become a discipline. And meditation definitely helps that, or focusing on any activity, whether it's painting or art or anything that you can really get your heart into, gives you this ability. And it doesn't have to be for long periods of time. You can have, it can be in an instant, really. Once you line up your heart, line up with the Creator, set your intention. And as a healer, and from a healing perspective, I work with a lot of people and have my favorite things to do with people. But always keeping in mind that primarily what I work with is my guidance from Spirit, from angelic beings, from different masters. And so I do often use the techniques of other people because I study a lot of different people. And it can be very beneficial to not have to reinvent the wheel every time with different techniques. So when learning the techniques of others, we want to do it, when we first learn them, we want to do it very systematically and true to form as possible until we commit a certain technique to memory. Now that does several things for us. It helps us to create a rapport with the healing method and to be able to access its morphogenetic field. Now that might not mean a whole lot to you, but every healing technique has its own energetic field associated with it. So anytime anybody uses it, any of the methods, it goes into this energy. It's like Reiki, for instance. There's a huge morphogenetic field around Reiki because there have been so many people that have done it and used it. So when you learn how to do this, and you go through the steps to it, you create this energetic rapport with it so that you actually have access to the energetic field of all the people who have ever done it. And these other methods of other people then become a reservoir of knowledge in your subconscious. But the thing is, you want to rely on your own inner promptings to know which method to apply and when. So applying these methods only under the direction then of your higher self. And then once your higher self has given you the go-ahead to use a certain method, and then and only then you feel free to follow your inner direction and make any amendments or changes to the original techniques. Because it becomes very tempting as a healer to apply methods that are very familiar in a rote or habitual manner without waiting for the inner promptings. And these are the kinds of things that we want to be careful about, because anytime we get in something rote and we do something out of habit, then it does not have the power of having our consciousness fully placed in it. This will become more important in a minute here. Okay, so I would like now to introduce to you some different techniques and to work with them with each other. And the first one I'd like to show you is from the School of Images. Maybe before I get too far along, I'll see if there's any questions. I don't see anything from the chat box coming in. But if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, or please, this might be easier. Give me a 1 if you're with me and you know what's going on. If you're understanding it, yeah. Okay. Okay, excellent. All right, now I want to get into some of the nitty-gritty. The School of Images has something called imagery therapy. If I can talk today. Say it for me. Imagery therapy. This gives you immediate access to the subconscious using your body's language to access your inner world. So this is very key. Knowing that our conscious mind is maybe 5% of what's happening in our world, whereas our subconscious mind is more like 95% of the information around us. So to have immediate access to the subconscious, there are a lot of different ways to do that. This happens through meditation. It also happens through using imagery. So there's a very famous school of images, and it's based on the work of a famous healer, Colette Abelker-Moscat. And she has passed away, and it's taught now by Catherine Schoenberg and Gerald Epstein. You may not have heard of them. They're not people that a lot of people have heard about. I'm not sure why. But this healer, Colette, is very famous, especially in Israel, which is where she's from. She's famous for having a personal mission to save lives as a healer. And she's documented by her heroic work in ministering to wounded World War I war veterans. And she's also Jewish, and she was very committed to organizing a successful underground resistance against the Nazis in North Africa during World War II. She lived from 1909 to 2003. There's a book about her, and then it includes her work, Encyclopedia of Mental Imagery Colette Abelker Musquet's 2,100 visualization exercises for personal development, healing, and self-knowledge. Some of the things that that she are famous for is, for instance, regrowing people's limbs. People who were in the war lost their limbs. This technique of accessing the subconscious mind by imagery is so powerful. It only takes an instant, but it takes a very good image to just go into the subconscious and completely reprogram everything that is there in this reality and bring it to its state of original perfection. Now, how do we do this? All right. So do this with me at first. And remember, before we try anything like this, we're first of all going to make our connection consciously to the Creator, to center ourselves, to center our awareness in our heart, connect our heart to our brain, and we want to be at a place where we can focus. All right, so now do this with me. Close your eyes. Just breathe in and out 3 times. And begin using your third eye. Count from 1 to 3 and see the numbers very clearly. All right, so breathe in, see number 1. Breathe out, see number 1. Breathe in, see number 2. Breathe out, see number 2. Breathe in, see number 3. Breathe out, see number 3. All right, so now let's do it. Breathe in and out. See 2. Breathe in. Breathe out. See 3. And out. Now pay attention to whether there's any physical, emotional, or mental pain and where it shows up in your body. Go to that place with your consciousness and see it with your inner eyes. Notice everything that you can about it. What color is it? Does it have a smell? What shape is it? Does it have a texture? Does it feel rough or smooth? Is it hot or cold? Is it wet or dry? Is it inflamed, angry, or is it dull or lifeless? What does the energy feel like? Keep breathing in and out. And let's say that what you're feeling is an inflammation. Substitute your own feeling if it feels differently. But use the same technique, or just be open to what Spirit will show you during this time. Okay? So once again, we're going to breathe in and out 3 times, seeing the numbers. Breathe in 1 and out. 2, in and out. 3, in and out. Now imagine that you have a pure wad of white cotton, and that you could just mop up anything that might be red or inflamed, or anything that's painful in any way, and just have the cotton absorb it all. See, whatever color it is. Now take that cotton in your hand and throw it into the center of the earth, or ask Archangel Raphael to take it away. And trust that he will take it far away, can take it to the great central sun. Now look again at that area where the pain was, or the inflammation, or the irritation, and notice that it looks clear and white and that the pain is gone. So breathe out and open your eyes. Now I want to talk just briefly about matrix energetics. This was developed by Dr. Richard Bartlett, chiropractor and naturopath, and the author of The Physics of Miracles. He discovered healing capabilities that use the principles of quantum physics. And I've studied with Richard extensively since had been a matrix practitioner since 2010. Richard really uses the imagination extensively and teaches us to do things with our mind that we couldn't ordinarily do without the imagination. Using matrix energetics, we do time travel, we work with parallel universes, work with various archetypes like Superman and Wonder Woman, and we use what's called templates or divine patterns and modules, which are healing modules that bring into the body to help certain things. And we also do something that Richard's very famous for. If you happen to know anything about Richard, he is an unusual person. And he calls this method hallucinating out of your skull. So it's a matter where we freely open up the doors and let the imagination just bring in what the imagination will. It's a matter of busting through your limitations. Now, Richard talks about understanding the images that we see. When we ask the question of the divine or the creator, for instance, how to help a certain issue that we're having, you just relax and open up and use whatever comes to your mind's eye. Do not stop to analyze it or judge it, regardless of how it may seem. And trust me, it can seem pretty strange sometimes. Some of the things that come to your mind, your consciousness will come in there and say, it's no way. So using these methods, you have to resist the temptation to judge what comes up. The superconscious mind often speaks to us by giving us images of shapes or scenes or patterns. Paying attention to the symbolic forms builds a bridge between the right and the left brain. They're functioning and harmonizes these two halves of the brain so that we're actually making use of our whole brain concepts when we do this healing. When you open to this awareness, you gain access to the information of your subconscious and superconscious. So by listening to these images, opening up to these images, you're bringing your right and left brain together. We have such a tendency to be analytical and logical that blocks very often the intuition, which is more of an art. It's an art of paying attention to what comes up, to how you feel. And so when we bring the right and the left hand hemispheres of the brains together in this way, they begin to work together. And we've already connected into our hearts, remember. At this point, we gain access to the information of not only the subconscious, but the superconscious. So when these things begin to happen, our world begins to change. And we make use, our guides are able to tell us things that are useful, that and maybe a technique, for instance, that we studied years ago that we've completely forgotten about, that all of a sudden pops in from out of nowhere. Or it could be something that we've never heard, ever, coming from the superconscious, because we're open to allowing this information to come to us. All right. So let's do an exercise here to bring this home to us. All right, and this exercise is a technique called modules. It's a technique of matrix energetics that was, Richard Bartlett got this idea from what was first created by Dr. Mel Rees to cure diseases. He was a chiropractic doctor. But what Dr. Rees did was he created these plastic discs with various crystals and soldered them together. Now Richard took the basic, and this isn't a disc, but it's something like this. This is an organite pyramid, and it has the crystals inside of it. All right. So Richard took this idea and he updated it in a matrix energetics to form an imaginary construct. Our minds do not know the difference between something that we imagine and visualize and feel and this three-dimensional reality that we live in, especially when we're in this semi-meditative state where we're connected up and we're focused. Now, matrix energetics calls these things modules. All right. So this is how they work. We create a module by this secret CIA method. It gets its name from create, install, and activate. All right. So first of all, we want to set an intention, give our module a purpose. We can call upon angelic assistants or ascended masters or guides or whoever it is to assist us with this process. So then you hold out your hand and give the module a place to be constructed. Okay. Now, I'm going to first do this for you and then allow you to do it for yourselves. Okay. So I don't know if you can even see my hand. Okay. So hold out your hand. Let's call beloved Archangel Michael, beloved Raphael, beloved Gabriel, beloved Sandalphon, beloved Amethyst, and Chamuel and Charity. Call upon the angelic realm, and they will always be there to help you. Just ask and say, I want this module to be instructed here. We have to give it a purpose. Let's say, what purpose do we want? Oh, I got a great purpose. Let's have this purpose to place into this module the solution to any fear that we have surrounding catching the coronavirus, or around our loved ones having the coronavirus, any fear around coming out of this this time of isolation too quickly. Pull all that fear out, and we'll see it getting back to our new normal with grace and ease. And seeing that our leaders have wisdom and perform to the best of their abilities and give us our freedom back just as quickly as is reasonable. All right, so we're going to create this module for that purpose. Now the angels are going to be the ones creating it for us. And so what we do is, while our hand is still out there, we begin to feel the angels placing things in energetic forms. That might be energetic forms of crystals. It could be energetic forms of anything that the angels come up with, because they have access to a lot of things that we don't. All right. So just let them do their work in this moment. And then you can watch them and see them as they put a lot of crystals in it. I like a lot of crystals. There's also some natural substances that they put in from the earth, from plants, the energy of vibrational energies of different plants. They do things in a way that only they know how to do. And so we set our intention that we know they're done when we really feel our hand become heavy. And when your hand is heavy enough to drop, just feel it. Then you'll know it's done. And so my hand is getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and it drops. All right, now in this case, when I have all of you, there's 17 of you out there right now, I'm going to ask the angels to create one for each one of you, to essentially copy and paste, and also make it individual. If there's any special things because of your makeup or your belief system that each one of you need, that be included. And then I'm going to ask them to come and visit you and bring the module to your field. Now we need to install the module. So I want for each one of you to decide where the module should go. It can go inside your body, it can go in your field, it can go in your house, it can go anywhere. Just ask your higher self where this module should go. And once you feel you have the answer, then have the angel place the module in your hand, and then take your hand and put the module where you feel it should go. And then making sure your consciousness is centered in your heart, and you're lined up with your own will and God's will, and very willing to accept this gift. Just use your intention and command, activate. We can do anything with the modules, anything that we're guided to do. I'd like to go on to another technique now. So again, at this point, I want to talk about the work of Grigori Grabovoi a little bit more. Okay, great. I got some comments. Cool. That's always a good one. All right, so I felt it in the top of my head. Feels like there's something really there. Okay, excellent. Ah, Janine put it in her third eye and could feel it spinning, and so did Gail feel it spinning. Excellent. It's nice, nice to have your feedback. All right, we've talked about Grigory Grabovoi in my last class that I did at Unity. Let's talk about him a little bit more again. He's a doctor of physical and mathematical sciences. He's an academician. He's the author of original works on the forecasting of future events, their control and correction. He is the author of the teachings about salvation and harmonious development. Now, I've recently taken a class about an introduction to his studies, and I could very easily spend an hour talking about what this man has accomplished. He has about, I don't know, over 200 books that he's written. We talked about him last time about his number frequencies and sequences used for healing, and we introduced him in that way. Now I want to talk about him in a little bit, another aspect of what he does. He does what we call concentration exercises. Now, these concentration exercises, some of you have bought this book, I know, and they're exercises to help you develop exactly what we're doing, to develop your focus and to develop your imagination and visualization skills. And there are other books here that do some of the similar things. So he also has books of exercises, mental exercises for healing that you can do. He has quite a number of them as well. These are a little bit more challenging than doing the numbers, but let's look at some of them. First of all, let's consider his instruction. Grabovoi says the effectiveness of concentration carried out by you is determined to a considerable degree by your approach to it. Makes sense. Be open to this creative process. So you have to be willing, like we've previously talked about, to be open to receiving these images and promptings in your mind. Listen to your eternal voice prompting you how to fulfill these concentrations in practice. So this becomes a real important point, is that you first learn how to do these exercises, and as you learn the method behind them, and then you release yourself to understand how the creator would have you do the exercise that may be a little bit different from the way it was originally intended. So let's try one. All right, pick a reality that you'd like to transform. It can be anything. It could be mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. It can be, you may be having a really difficult time getting along with your mate because you're locked in the house together so much. or not. It could just be that you're feeling housebound, because you are, and that could really be feeling, you may feel like your rights have been taken away, because essentially they have, and this could, or it could be your neighbors are fighting and you can hear them, or it can be something in your body. Now, for this example, I'm picking liver function. And a lot of people have issues with their livers just clogged up. The liver does a lot of work. It's an organ that has a lot to deal with, because it takes care of all the garbage in our system, and the toxins are a lot of it. All right, so let's say we're going to look at how our livers are doing. All right, so we're going to ask Source to show you the geometric form of the existing information around the reality. Now, this doesn't mean this is the shape of your liver. It means this is the shape of the energy around your liver. So all of you may get something different, but everything has a shape. Everything has the information that is contained around each organ, each disease, each condition has information that is contained in a shape, and it'll be a geometric shape. And usually, well, I can say probably always, if there is the liver, for instance, is not functioning well, it's not going to, the geometric shape is usually not going to be very symmetrical or very pleasing, like the one in this slide. That the liver energy doesn't look good at all. All right. So we're going to set our intention then to restore the liver energy to the Creator's norm. And we're going to set our intention to send healing on that ambulance that is driving by the house. Ask Source to show you this form. And so each one of you can ask Source to show you the form of your liver. And it will probably look different from this. Setting our intention to restore the liver. And also notice the color. Now, I haven't gone into great detail, but you can also notice there may be a smell associated with it. Get all your senses involved. Get it as real as your imagination can get it. All right, so we're looking at the color in this existing form now, and it's not looking real good. It's kind of, I mean, to me, that's not the most pleasing color. It's kind of an orangey brown. All right, so then let's then go to the next step and ask that the color will change. And notice that it will feel more pleasing for this reality. You don't have to pick a color, you can, but you can just wait. Once you ask for the color to change, it will change. And that shape too, it's just like, pick a shape that feels more pleasing for this reality. So we're going to put that information now in the sphere. And as this happens, what happens is that information about the clogged up liver is changing. And we're going to illuminate this form by sending it a silvery white light from our soul, from our higher selves. And then we're going to ask the Creator to send a golden light over top of that. And we're going to move the sphere to change the time-space coordinates. So we're going to disconnect any information from the old information by moving it slightly. Now there's a sphere around you that's about 15 feet in diameter, or 7.5 feet in front of you and around you in radius. So see that big sphere around you. Now take this sphere and completely move it out of the big sphere that's around you. This liver sphere. I'm going to take it completely outside of the sphere of your reality. Now shrink that information to a really small dot. Now in your mind, create a silvery cube that's outside let's send it 10 feet out to be sure. It's outside your cube, your sphere. This is the creator's cube. It's a little box and have a hinge on it, and you'll open it up and the creator will take this dot and place it in the cube. And then ask the creator to develop it further until it is completely within the creator's norm. So you're handing this dot of information completely over to the creator. Now notice how you feel. Does anyone feel different? Again, I invite you to share your experience. And even if you don't feel different, it doesn't mean nothing's happened. When I ask you to notice how you feel, it is an invitation to check in with your body, with your energies. But if you do feel something, and sometimes you may need to ask to have confirmation that something has taken place, because our consciousness needs to have some kind of a confirmation. That's just the way we are with our left brains. But it's also important then, once you've asked, once you get that confirmation or not, just let it go and trust that it is done. Trust is a big part of this. Faith. Okay. Thank you for sharing. You get a lightness in the area of the liver. Excellent. Wispy. I'm not quite sure what that means. A little lighter, perhaps, a little less dense, more energy. And the whole body confirmation. All right, when you ask for confirmation, even though you don't get it, yes, your body will confirm it. And less dense, okay. And that's important to get that confirmation. And spirit doesn't mind. It's like, sure. This is another method of Grigori Grabovoi. Now, this particular method is specifically to neutralize the coronavirus or any virus. Okay, so you can use this from now until forever for any virus you might get. Another comment. The whole body's vibrating. Good. So this method that I'm about to introduce to you is one that Grigori Grabovoi recently came out with in March of this year, specifically to assist with the coronavirus. Now, when he says to neutralize, when you use this method to neutralize the coronavirus, you can do anything around the virus, okay, associated with the virus. It's not just if you have the virus to neutralize it, or if you know somebody to neutralize it. It's not limited in that way. You can set your intention, which we'll always do first, right? We will connect to the creator. We'll connect through the heart. We will focus on setting an intention. You can set the intention here for anything associated with the coronavirus, the fear around it, the fear around our government either keeping us too long or letting us out too quickly. The fear of as well as the virus itself. Now, this particular method is a little bit different, and you'll find Grigori Grabovoi has many of these methods, and they're very they can be very challenging when you read, for instance, his daily concentration exercises as to what he really means, because you'll see that he writes in Russian, and then things are translated, and they're translated to English quite literally. So sometimes it's very difficult to know what he means. So this one I have gone to great lengths to make it hopefully very clear. All right. So we've set our intention. And now we're going to take our concentration and our focus. We're going to take all of our concentration, our consciousness, for instance, the majority of it, take it and put it in your right knee. Now feel what that feels like. Your consciousness is in your right knee. Look around that knee from the center of the knee. What does your kneecap look like? What do the blood vessels look like? What does it feel like to be in your right knee? So really get in there. Now do the same thing with your left knee. What's it feel like to be inside your left knee? What does that left knee look like? Now you're going to divide your concentration between your right knee and your left knee, and look from your knees to your brain. And how clearly can you perceive your brain? Can you perceive the gray matter, the skull, the bony structure? Can you see inside and see the glands? Can you see where the right brain and the left brain are divided? Can you see the corpus callosum that connect the two? Take a good look at your brain. See the pineal, the pituitary. Now notice your breathing. Take your focus to your breathing and perceive that your breathing is oxygenating your brain while still looking from your knees to your brain. See how the energy of your brain, how your brain is stimulated as you breathe in. How the cellular waste is taken with the blood as you breathe out. So you're noticing how the oxygen comes through the bloodstream. As you breathe, focus on your breathing. As you focus on this breathing, you turn off the structure of the reality where the coronavirus exists. Set your intention. So you are removing the information of the coronavirus from your reality. Focus on your breathing. All right, so Gail said there's no visualization of the virus. And that really brings up a really good point, is we don't want to visualize things that we don't want. Now, the virus is shown here in this picture because that's kind of what is happening in our reality, is we're essentially separating ourselves from this virus. But we don't want to visualize the virus. We want to visualize what we do want. And it's a little bit more difficult because how do you visualize the absence of a virus? Well, you just see a person very healthy, see them running around, up and about, doing, driving the car, going to the store, having a picnic, being on the park. So you don't want to visualize what you don't want. But it's here in this picture because that is what's happening. You're being the virus is being separated out from you, from your reality. The virus is leaving you, and that's because you set your intention to be free of it and all the results of it. Oh, Julie's there. Another question is, how does focusing on our breathing turn off the structure of the reality where the coronavirus exists? So what I'm doing here is giving you some methods and asking you somewhat to trust on faith that they work. Because I have spent 10 days taking the course on the theory behind these, and I'm working on the exam to pass this course to understand the theory. And let's just say the theory is beyond anything that I've ever studied before. It's beyond the theories in quantum mechanics that I've studied with matrix energetics. It is because essentially what Grabavoy has done is taken matrix energetics to a new level. He has mapped the quantum field, and specifically mapped the way our soul, our spirit, our body, our consciousness all interact. So these methods that I'm giving you are methods that he has been successful with, he and his students. One reason I'm studying him is because he has successfully regenerated people. He has had people that he's worked with regrow organs. He has had women who have had hysterectomies regrow their uterus and have given birth to children. He has had people regrow limbs. So it's been, his results speak for themselves at this point. I do not pretend to understand the complete theory behind it. So what I am doing and asking you to do is essentially try it and see what it does for you. Because fortunately, for all our healing methods to work and to bring change about, we do not have to have fully understand them. And I will be the first to admit that I do not fully understand even this method. So I just do know that when you focus on your breathing, you're focusing on what is live and real in your body. And how that completely turns us off, I wish I knew the answer, but I don't. It's a good question, and I hope to find the answer at some point. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Let's see, I don't see hands. So you know, I really, really hope we can be together physically in May. And I'm holding this next protection from harmful EMF frequencies until we can be together, because Janine and I have been working on a little present for each one of our class members. We've been making some orgonite, and we did some with Alana too. If you did make a donation, I am grateful to you, and so is Unity. And if you didn't, that's okay too. And if you still want to, feel free. You can go to my website on the webinar page and go down to the box there, or and make a donation with your credit card. Yes, it. Oh, clap, clap, bravo. All right, thanks. Okay, thanks. Oh, super. I'm glad Al was here too. All right, so just before further ado, before I close off things with you, let me just say that as usual, if you want the PowerPoint, just shoot me an email and request it, and I'll be happy to send it to you, because I didn't figure out how to download it on Zoom. And let's just have a little closing prayer and give our gratitude to Spirit. And then I'll see you. I'm still doing a short Zoom on Thursday evenings. You're all welcome to come to that. And it's more about just spending a little time with each other and praying together over this current situation, praying and meditating. So you'd be welcome to come to that. And I love you all. Janine's here with me. She sends her love too. And I really hope to see you in person very soon. Beloved Creator of all that is, we are grateful for this gift of life, grateful for this time together, and for these new teachings and learnings, and to help us really, really know that we are divine, that we can change this reality that we're in, that we can help the ascension process along with our prayers and affirmations, and knowing that when we come out of this coronavirus situation, hopefully very soon and very calmly and reasonably, that we will rediscover our compassion, our health, and the love that we have for each other. And we are grateful for those beings of divine light who have joined us here, grateful and to know that God is in control and that we are being watched over. I send my love to all of you. And so it is. Amen.